3 years ago, I watched a 67-year-old Japanese man spend 4 hours washing a 1992 Toyota Celsior in a driveway in Osaka. No fancy equipment, no electric polisher, no stack of products that costs more than your car payment. When he finished, that 30-year-old paint looked like it had just rolled off the factory floor in Toyota City. I stood there genuinely confused, because everything he did contradicted everything I thought I knew about paint care. Hi, my name is Alex, and this is Japanese Car Garage. The philosophy: why Japanese paint care is different. Here's what most American car owners fundamentally misunderstand about paint. They treat it like something you maintain after it gets damaged. Swirls appear, so you polish. Paint goes dull, so you wax. Water stops beading, so you reapply sealant. The entire American approach to paint care is reactive. Something goes wrong, and then you respond. Japanese owners, particularly the generation that came up in the 1970s and 1980s when a new car represented years of savings, think about paint completely differently. The goal was never to fix paint. The goal was to never let it degrade in the first place. There is a concept baked into Japanese craftsmanship culture that does not have a perfect English translation, but the closest version is this: the surface must be prepared before it can be protected. You do not protect a dirty surface. You do not protect a contaminated surface. You do not put a top coat on paint that still has invisible damage embedded in the clear coat. You prepare first, completely, almost obsessively. And then, and only then, do you protect. That is the philosophy. Everything else in this video flows directly from it. So let's get into exactly what that looks like in practice. Step 1. The 2-bucket decontamination wash. I want to be honest with you about something. Before I learned this method, I was a 1-bucket guy. I know. Don't at me. I have since repented. Every Japanese detailer I have ever watched, from that man in Osaka to the independent detail shops I visited outside Nagoya, uses a 2-bucket wash system. And I know you have probably heard of 2-bucket washing before, but here is what nobody explains correctly. The second bucket is not just about keeping your wash mitt cleaner. It is about understanding what you are actually doing to your paint every time you drag a contaminated mitt across it. Here is what is happening on a molecular level. Your paint surface collects microscopic particles constantly. Road grime, industrial fallout, brake dust, tree sap residue, bird-dropping acids, even after you have wiped them away. When you wash with 1 bucket, you pick up those particles in your mitt, dip it back in soapy water, and drag them right back across your paint at speed. Every single wash for years. What you are doing, without realizing it, is installing swirl marks into your clear coat 1 wash at a time. The 2-bucket system fixes this. 1 bucket holds your car soap solution. 1 bucket holds clean rinse water, with a grit guard sitting at the bottom. Before you go back into your soap bucket, you rinse the mitt in the clean water bucket and agitate it against the grit guard. The contamination falls to the bottom and stays there. But here is the part that makes the Japanese approach different. They treat this wash as a decontamination step, not a cleaning step. The goal is not just a car that looks clean. The goal is a paint surface that is genuinely free of contamination before you move to the next step. That mindset shift changes how carefully you work. It changes how much time you take, and it changes your results dramatically. Use a proper pH-neutral car soap, not dish soap. I cannot stress this enough. Dish soap strips whatever protection is on your paint and leaves the surface vulnerable. A quality pH-neutral car wash soap runs about $12 to $15 and treats your clear coat like the precision surface it actually is. Step 2. The clay bar secret they don't sell you at dealerships. After washing, most American detailers reach for a polish or a wax. Japanese detailers reach for a clay bar. And there is a reason for that. Even after a perfect 2-bucket wash, your paint still has contamination bonded to it that soap and water cannot remove. Iron particles from brake dust have physically embedded themselves into the clear coat. Industrial fallout from highways and factory zones. Rail dust if you live near train lines. These particles are not sitting on top of your paint. They are fused into it, and you cannot protect over them. If you try, you are sealing contamination underneath your protection layer, and that contamination will continue eating into your clear coat from below, silently, for years. This is exactly why so many people wax their cars religiously and still end up with dull, degraded paint at the 150,000-mile mark. The clay bar pulls these bonded particles out of the paint surface mechanically. You work with a clay lubricant spray to keep the surface wet, and you glide the clay bar in straight lines across panels. Never circles. Straight lines only, following the direction the car moves through the air. The reason is simple. If you drop the clay bar and pick it up and use it again without checking it, any damage it causes will be in straight lines that are far less visible than swirl circles. When you run your hand across a properly clayed panel, it feels like glass, completely smooth, no texture, no grittiness, just a pure, uncontaminated paint surface. That feeling is what you are chasing, and it is the foundation that makes everything that follows actually work. Step 3. The iron remover trick. Okay, so this step genuinely surprised me the first time I watched it. And I am going to be honest, it also grossed me out a little bit. Before or after clay, depending on contamination level, Japanese detailers use a chemical iron remover spray. You spray it on the paint surface and you wait. Within 60 to 90 seconds, the solution starts turning purple. And I mean vividly, almost violently, purple in spots. What you are watching is a chemical reaction. The iron remover is reacting with iron particles embedded in your clear coat, dissolving the bond that is holding them in place. Here is why this matters. Brake dust is not just dirty. Brake dust is metallic. Every time you brake, your brake pads shed tiny iron particles that travel through the wheel well and land on your paint panels, your lower doors, your rocker panels, your rear quarter panels. These areas are constantly being bombarded by microscopic iron shrapnel. And because iron is metal, it does not just sit there. It oxidizes. It rusts. And that rust, embedded inside your clear coat, slowly destroys the paint from within. The purple reaction is those iron particles releasing. You rinse it off and they go with it. What is left is a paint surface that is not just clean and clay smooth, but genuinely decontaminated at a chemical level. Most American detailers skip this step entirely because it adds 15 minutes and costs another $20 in product. Japanese detailers consider skipping it almost irresponsible. That difference in mindset is exactly why a 1992 Celsior in Osaka looks better than a 2015 Camry in a Houston parking lot. Step 4. Paint inspection under direct light. Here's the step that nobody talks about in YouTube tutorials, and it might actually be the most important one. Before a Japanese detailer applies a single protective product, they inspect the paint under direct raking light. A single bright light source is held at a low angle to the panel surface. And they look, really look. They read the paint like a mechanic reads an engine. They look for fine scratches, marring, oxidation, and areas where the clear coat is thinning. Because, here is the truth. If your paint has defects at this stage, no amount of ceramic spray or sealant is going to hide them long term. What it will do is lock those defects in place under a layer of protection that you then have to remove to fix them. The flashlight inspection takes about 5 minutes per panel. It is slow and slightly tedious, and I will not pretend otherwise. But it tells you exactly what your paint needs before you reach for any product. If you find heavy swirling, you know you need a light machine polish before protection. If the paint looks clean and defect-free, after decontamination, you go straight to protection. Japanese detailers make decisions based on what the paint actually is, not on what they assume it to be. That precision is what separates a paint job that lasts 15 years from one that looks great for 6 months and then fades. Step 5. The ceramic spray technique, the real secret. All right, this is the part you came for. American car culture in the 1980s and the 1990s was absolutely dominated by carnauba wax. Everyone used it. Everyone swore by it. And look, carnauba wax is not a bad product. It gives a warm, rich look and it smells incredible, which apparently counts for a lot at car shows. But it lasts 6 to 8 weeks in real-world conditions. Then it is gone, and you are back to square one. Japanese detailers moved away from wax decades ago, not recently. We are talking about the 1990s. They understood early that wax sits on top of paint like a temporary film. It does not bond to the clear coat. It does not provide any structural protection. It just sits there until UV light, rain, and car washes gradually strip it away. What they moved toward instead was a silica-based approach. In the modern version of that approach, ceramic spray technology is the accessible, consumer-level solution that gets results wax simply cannot match. Here is what ceramic spray actually does. The silica dioxide in the formula chemically bonds to your clear coat surface. It does not sit on top. It fills microscopic pores in the clear coat and creates a hardened hydrophobic layer that water, dirt, and UV radiation cannot penetrate the way they can penetrate a wax film. The result is that glass-like depth and that water-sheeting behavior that makes a properly maintained Japanese car look absolutely surreal in direct sunlight. The application method matters just as much as the product, and this is where most people get it wrong. They spray it on, wipe it around, buff it off, and call it done. Japanese detailers apply ceramic spray in small sections, one panel at a time. They apply a thin, even layer with a foam applicator, let it sit for the manufacturer's recommended flash time, and then buff it off with a clean, high-quality microfiber towel. Then they flip the towel to a fresh panel and do a second wipe. 2 wipes per panel, not 1. That second wipe removes any high spots or streaking and leaves an absolutely uniform surface. Maintain panel temperature between 60 and 75 degrees when you apply it. Too cold and the product will not bond properly. Too hot and it flashes too fast and streaks. Japanese detailers would never apply ceramic spray in direct noon sunlight on a summer day. They work early morning or in shade, always. A quality ceramic spray costs between $25 and $50. It lasts 6 to 12 months with proper maintenance. That is not 6 weeks like wax, 6 to 12 months. And the glass-like gloss it produces makes your paint look like a surface. A light source is reflecting off of, not just bouncing off of. There is a difference. Once you see it, you understand why that man in Osaka spent 4 hours on a 30-year-old Toyota. Here's the thing that nobody wants to hear. Getting the glass look once is not the goal. Keeping it is. Japanese owners treat paint maintenance like they treat oil changes. It is not something you do when things look bad. It is something you do on a schedule before things look bad, because the entire point is prevention. Every wash going forward should use a pH-neutral soap, no exceptions. No dish soap, no all-purpose cleaner, no whatever's under the sink. A pH-neutral soap preserves your ceramic layer and extends its life dramatically. Japanese owners keep a dedicated wash bucket and mitt in their garage, not the mop bucket from the garage shelf. Dedicated equipment for the car's paint. Every month after a wash, apply a quick spray of a ceramic maintenance product, not a full reapplication. just a light maintenance coat applied to a wet panel after washing. This tops up the ceramic layer and maintains the hydrophobic behavior. It takes about 4 extra minutes per wash. Every 6 months, perform a full iron remover treatment and a clay bar pass before reapplying ceramic spray properly. This is the deep reset. Pull out the contamination that has built up, start with a clean surface, and lay down a fresh protective layer. Seasonally, in climates with harsh winters or extreme summer heat, add a dedicated paint inspection to the routine. Check for chips and check any areas where the ceramic layer has worn thin. Catch small problems before they become paint damage. This schedule sounds intensive, and I completely understand if your first reaction is, yeah, that is not happening. But here is the reality. An oil change every 5,000 miles sounds tedious too, until you compare it to replacing an engine. Paint protection on this schedule costs you about 2 hours every 6 months. Repainting a panel costs $400 to $800 minimum. The math is not complicated. The products that actually matter. I'm going to keep this section short because I know how recommendation lists can spiral into a shopping cart situation. For soap, use any pH-neutral car wash soap from a reputable brand. For example, Chemical Guys, Meguiar's Gold Class, or Adams Car Wash. $15. Buy it once. It lasts months. For clay, choose a medium-grade clay bar kit that comes with lubricant. Any major detailing brand carries one. Do not buy the aggressive grade clay for regular maintenance. You will remove more than contamination. For iron remover, use CarPro Iron X or Gion iron. They work exactly as described. They turn purple on contact with iron contamination, and they rinse clean. For ceramic spray, try G-Technique C2V3, Adams UV ceramic spray, or CarPro Reload. These are the products Japanese enthusiast communities actually use. Avoid the shelf stuff at the auto parts store that claims to be ceramic but contains only trace amounts of silica in a glorified spray wax formula. Read the ingredients. Silica dioxide should be a primary ingredient, not a footnote. Microfiber towels. Buy quality ones. A cheap microfiber towel will scratch your paint, and that defeats the entire purpose of everything in this video. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. That 67-year-old man in Osaka wasn't spending 4 hours on a 30-year-old Toyota because he had nothing else to do. He was spending 4 hours on it because he understood something that most American car culture doesn't prioritize. Your car's paint is a precision surface. It's not decorative, it's protective, and it responds directly to how you treat it over time. Japanese owners who drive cars to 300,000 or 400,000 miles with paint that still looks alive are not doing anything magical. They are consistent, they are precise, and they treat prevention like it is worth more than repair, because it is, always. That Celsior in Osaka didn't look like glass because of expensive products or exotic techniques. It looked like glass because someone for 30 years never let it stop looking that way. If you found this useful, be sure to watch the next video where I am breaking down the Japanese engine maintenance secrets that American dealerships have been quietly ignoring for decades. See you there.